He had been doubting her for weeks, the laughter she shared with strangers, the way her phone lit up at odd hours. The silences that stretched too long between them, so when his best friend suggested a loyalty test, he hesitated but then agreed. And together they planned it all out, with a stranger hired to approach her with charm, with compliments, with temptation. He watched behind a screen, heart pounding, as she sat at the cafe alone, unaware of the eyes watching her, unaware of the setup that waited for her. The man approached smoothly, his voice easy, and his smile warm, and still she smiled back politely, not flirty, not distant, just kinder eyes, flicking once to her phone before she tucked it away and laughed softly at something he said. And he watched, torn between fear and guilt, between hope and dread, because every second felt like a slow betrayal of the woman. He claimed to love the woman, he claimed to trust, and yet here he was, watching her being tested by someone she didn't even know, and for a moment he hated himself more than he feared her answer. The stranger leaned in, whispered something low enough that even the mic couldn't catch it, and she leaned back, eyebrows raised, the trace of a smirk on her lips, as she responded, her words clear enough to hear across the feed. I have someone, and I love him, and even if he doubts me sometimes, I will never give him a reason to. And he felt his breath hitch in his chest, because there was no hesitation, no wavering. Just that fierce look in her eyes, like she had already decided 1,000 times before, and suddenly his world tilted and shifted, and the guilt hit like a wave. How dare he test her? How dare he question what she had already proven over and over? In the way she stood by him, in the way she forgave his moods, in the way she chose him every morning despite everything, and still she sat there unaware that he was breaking on the other side of the screen. Her loyalty not just passed, but etched deep into his heart in a way he hadn't seen before. Not until now, not until he risked everything just to learn what she'd been showing all along. He waited outside as the test ended, his heart heavy with regret, with awe, with a kind of quiet shame that made it hard to meet her eyes when she stepped out and saw him standing there, her expression puzzled, and then slowly she put the pieces together, her eyes narrowing, her steps slowing, and he opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came, not because he didn't have the words, but because no words could measure what he felt in that moment she stood before him. Strong, beautiful, hurt, maybe, but not broken, not angry, just waiting, and that waiting felt heavier than any accusation, and he finally found the courage to speak. I'm sorry, he said, and her silence cracked something in him. He told her everything, from the doubts to the plan to the screen he hid behind, and as he spoke, her shoulders tensed, her lips pressed together, but her eyes stayed on his, clear, steady, unblinking. And when he finished, she didn't yell, she didn't cry, she just asked why. And he had no answer, not one that didn't sound small or selfish or scared, because it had been fear all along, the fear of not being enough, of losing someone like her, of watching something so precious slip away. And she reached for his hand, and for a moment he thought she'd pull away. Instead, she held it tighter than she ever had before, and she said, if you ever doubt me again, don't test me, trust me, talk to me, love me the way I love you, without question, without traps, without screens. And he nodded, unable to speak, because her words rang louder than anything he had heard that day, louder than the loyalty test, louder than the stranger's compliments, louder even than his own heartbeat. And she stepped closer, rested her forehead against his, and whispered, you are enough, and I choose you still. And the sky stretched wide above them, as if the world itself held its breath, waiting, watching, honoring the moment they chose each other again, without conditions, without proof, without walls, just love, raw and aching and true, as their fingers laced tighter and they walked away from the test, from the doubt, from the pain, not as two people divided by secrets, but as one heart stitched back together by truth, and by the only thing that never needed to be tested at all. Days passed like a soft echo after a storm, the kind that lingers, quiet but full of weight, and still they stayed close, not out of guilt, not out of fear, but because something had shifted, something had cracked and let in a deeper light. He watched her differently now, not because he doubted, but because he finally saw her. Fully the way she tied her hair in the mornings, the way her eyes searched his when he seemed distant, the way her laughter found its way back to him slowly but surely like a song he'd almost forgotten. She began to trust again. Not just him, but the space between them, the safety in his arms, the promise in his gaze, and he worked to deserve that trust, not with grand gestures, but with quiet ones, with honesty. Where silence used to live with touch, where distance once settled, he deleted the footage, he deleted the stranger's number, he deleted every trace of the test, as if erasing it could somehow undo the wound. But she had already done that, not by forgetting, but by forgiving. One night, she came to him with a small envelope, her fingers trembling just slightly, and he took it, opened it, found inside a photo of them from years ago, smiling, tangled on a beach neither of them could name, and on the back she had written only one thing: "Let's never test love again." He looked up to find her eyes on him, soft but unflinching, and he pulled her into him, holding her, not to claim her, not to fix her, just to feel her, and she melted there against him, like maybe she had waited all this time for this version of him, the one who believed without proof, the one who stayed without question, the one who loved without conditions. And as they stood there wrapped in that silence, that peace, he realized something: love doesn't pass tests, it just survives them. And sometimes that survival is the truest answer of all. And so he kissed her, not to end a story, but to begin one again, one where he never asked her to prove herself again, because she already had once, and it had left him speechless forever.